In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It is time again for another We Are So Back Wednesday or another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. Real quick, couple of announcements. I will be going on vacation next week. It is well deserved. I have had a lot go on in these past few months, and quite frankly, the past year, a lot has gone on. So I will be off from the show next week, but however, I'm not leaving you guys hanging. I do have an episode I will be airing. It is the Forbidden Knowledge panel, Conversations with AI, Part 2. So that will be airing in my absence. So at least you guys have something to check out. It's a continuation of Conversations with AI, Part 1. I know a lot of you really dug that episode, so we decided to do a second one. And of course, it's going to be me, Karen, and Chris Matthew on that. So for sure. And check it out when it airs. It'll be next Wednesday, same time. Thank you, Shadow and Sovereignty. I appreciate it. I want to give shout outs to her. I want to give shout outs to, I'm sorry if you're a her, he. Sorry, shout outs to you. Didn't mean to assume that. I want to give a shout out to Don Rogers of March 4th Productions for being here. And Spinja, his interdimensional exit buddy, is also in the chat. I want to give thanks to her as well. But nonetheless, let's get to my guest. So you all might know her. Oh, nice to see you. Of course. I know. That's right. I thought you were another name. I'm sorry, Anna Lynn. Sorry about that. But let's get to my guest. So she's been in the chat before. You've known her as Grateful Heart. And she is a member of our Spiritual panel as well. Want to say a very amazing human being, very down-to-earth human being. You've seen her on the panel before, and tonight we're going to get to know her a little bit more up close and personal. We're going to get to know her story. We're going to talk about some Bruce Lee philosophy because her and I are both fans of Bruce Lee, and I'm sure that's going to be an interesting conversation. Hey, David, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it. We are going to be talking about her energy work, her business. We are going to be talking about spiritual warfare. We're going to be talking about what kind of crazy, intense world and clown show we are in today. And I am actually really grateful she is here joining us right now because my goal was to have everybody on the panel on solo. And nonetheless, let's invite her to the stage. Karen, what is going on? Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Stephen. Great to see you and everyone in the chat. That's fantastic. Yeah, I love the Wednesday nights with you. So yeah, we're taking it back.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, man. I'm glad I've helped you as much as I have. And you've helped me too. You know, I like how you have a no bullshit approach. That's one of my favorite things about you, you know, like, and you have the fire, you know, like, and you know, the fire is a very spiritual thing. You know, I feel like a lot of people, they try to snuff out their fire when they get on their spiritual evolution and they try to lay it, but no, like, hey, Sarah, thanks for being here. And, but you let the fire roll, man, you know, like you let it roll, and you know, you bring it into your voice and the way that you speak. And I respect that, you know, that's one of my favorite things about you.
Aw, thanks. Kind of made me feel like some kind of a spiritual arsonist. Had to go along with there. Like, yeah, I'm always about burn it all down. It's all fake. You can't start over. Like, I kind of hit a point in my life where it was just because, yeah, in the beginning of the spiritual journey, it's like, oh, go, feel better. Everything's love and light and peace, and it's meant to be, and it is what it is, and just accept and receive. And but eventually at some point I was like, well, I like the middle path. I don't like, I recognize the darkness that's been in there, ancestral, previous incarnations. So it's like the only true way to really heal is to face it. And I was thinking about that
100%.
today. Um, I still work part-time at outdoors like hunting store, and I'm in Pennsylvania, so the hunting licenses just went on sale on Monday. So I've been working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every single day. Somebody called up. So it's
Oh
just been
man.
like, so I'm like walking around today. I'm like in a good mood. I'm like not letting it stress me out, one person at a time, not in a rush. And then I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, man, I love pain. I love struggle because it's like when you get through that funk and the muck of whatever crazy situation comes up that like triggers you, it's like that's your healing point. So I actually get kind of excited about having the metaphorical punch to the face kind of situation. So but yeah, it's and meeting you and working with the panel and Don and Diana and David, and it's just so refreshing to know that there's other people that are also into like the no bullshit kind of, hey, it is what it is. We go through the tough stuff. We still swear, we still smoke, whatever. We're not trying to
Yeah.
be nuns and monks and whatever. We're here
Ex-
to enjoy ourselves, embody both heaven and earth. So you got a body, take care of it, show it off as you like, and like that, and own it. Be yourself and do what makes you feel good. And I found
I-
the more that I've gotten over the fear of being cringe or, saying inappropriate things. But now with Clown World, everything's inappropriate. So it's been really fun watching certain things kind of not be taboo anymore, just because people are just so tired of the self-censorship. Everyone's got
Mhm.
their damaged throat chakras going on because you're like, ooh, I can't say that, I can't say that. And then so it's kind of like when I started my business with Grateful Heart, I was, and having a physical office, I think actually held me back a bit because I had
Mhm.
that, ooh, I can't say that or put that out there, because if I'm relying on local physical people in a geographic area. So did that for 2 years. I'm like, you know what? I'm understanding more, especially finding, people on the panel, is that we are strategically placed around the world to anchor lights. And I'm actually along some ley lines here, in central Pennsylvania and north
Oh
of
yeah.
DC, Baltimore. And I think you said last week about mapping where we're all located and check out the sacred geometry and see if something interesting pops up, because I totally would believe that. I would totally believe that. But we are in amazing times for sure. So, and I'm very excited you're getting a vacation and a break, because
Thank you.
what we're going through, with all our chakras and energy and our physical bodies are just, with this heat. I mean,
It is. It is. And it's funny because the one thing I want to talk about is the burn it down thing. Real quick, I have a comment from Don. He said, to quote David, healing our traumas levels up our DNA. Absolutely. And of course, we have Annalind coming in with 100% to everything you just said. But the burn it down, man, no, I completely agree with you on that. And that's something we really resonate on, because, I'm starting to see, like, and I mean, and I saw it in during the election in 2024. A lot of people in our conscious collective, and even in the spiritual community, getting roped back in, because there was a lot of,
mm,
we had Vivek come out, dangle the carrot, be
mm,
like, oh, we're gonna tell the truth, we're gonna release the conspiracies, all this. So like, and it moved
okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
people back in, but that's the thing, man. You can't change this system. You cannot change it. I think at this point, it's naive to think that you can change this system at all. I mean, and if you've had the observation And I mean, like, and you've seen it over the course of any length of time, you can see that there's no changing when it comes to a lot of the things that are happening here. It's the same consistent narrative that just
Yeah.
continues over and over. It doesn't matter if they're wearing a red shirt or a blue shirt. If you
Yeah.
look at it over that objective time, you see that this is just a constant single solo narrative pushing through this, this totalitarian, this surveillance state, all of these things, trying to usher in false flags, a fake alien invasion, whatever it may be. So I agree with you on that. Burn it down. We need to burn it down. And it's like I joke
It's so
too.
hot out. It's so hot out because you and I are burning it all down.
We gotta burn it
Like,
down. Well,
yeah.
that's the thing you were saying too, because like I joke, like, because we when we talk about ascension symptoms, I made like this little joke. It's like Sunday, mini dark night of the soul. Monday, you're feeling on fire. Tuesday, burn it all down. Wednesday, emotional wreck. Thursday, burn it all down. Friday, freaking, you're like, don't burn it all down. It's beautiful and perfect. And then on Saturday, you're back to burn it all down again. And that's really what it's like. And you brought up a really cool point about the pain and the struggle and how it transforms us. And you saw the post I made earlier today on X, where you can't avoid the confrontation of these deepest, darkest parts of yourself. You can't,
Right.
because through these struggles and these deepest, darkest parts of yourself, it lies victory. Going into your own abyss and stepping down into your own darkness, whether it be through a struggle, whether it be through something along those lines, or even a obstacle or a challenge that you're facing, like you have been facing, with people calling out and, the heat and all of that. That's what forges the spiritual fire. That's what pushes us even further towards the light and gains us that deeper appreciation of the light itself. So I want to say like that you got to lean into it. You got to lean into it. There's no I'm gonna have to say it. There's no pussyfooting around it. There's really not.
Yeah.
And
If you want real results, yeah, for sure.
No, definitely, and you're right about that. But Karen, real quick, since it is your first time on the show, and a lot of people are just meeting you right now, I know Don likes to ask this question too. You don't have to go into too much detail if you want to keep it brief. I want to talk about your awakening story. I want to talk about what was that burning bush moment you had, and or were there multiple moments that kind of opened your eyes up into seeing that there was a deeper nature to this reality that it seemed nobody else would notice except for you at that time?
Well, there was a big catalyst about 10 years ago, but since I was very young, um and I also say my mom immigrated from China, so I'm half Chinese. So I have there's my connection with the Eastern esoteric and Bruce Lee kind of strength, because I grew up around that. So I grew up reading about and hearing about Buddha as well as Jesus Christ, growing up in Pennsylvania, going to a Methodist church. But I also was a huge, huge reader of science fiction. So my mind at a young age was very much absorbing a lot of concepts: vampires, zombies, witches, warlocks, all of that time. Oh, and watching Doctor Who growing up, like the classic ones. So Cybermen and Daleks and all of that, Clash of the Titans, Pegasus, unicorns, dragons. So I always had that love for fantasy and, other realms. So I think that absolutely helped me have kind of a groundwork as growing up, becoming an adult, finishing school, and then working as a government contractor
Mhm.
and in entertainment as radio. Did that for a while. I did a lot of weird, odd jobs. So I've always been one that kind of, ooh, let's try this, let's try that. So, which I think has helped me a lot now
Very
with
cool.
everything being so uncertain, with chaos. You can't control anything outside of yourself. So now I'm very comfortable just oh, well, that didn't work. Okay, something else, losing the fear of whatever of having control. You always land on your feet. But physical injury about 10 years ago put me down. And
Mhm.
I'd never had something that was just so excruciatingly, constantly painful. And then, doctors, medical things. Oh, it's nothing. So it went untreated for about a year until finally I had surgery. And it turned out it was something that needed surgery. So it was, just that really triggered me was the physical, and then needing to take some time away. And I was fortunate to be able to have a place to go one summer and just kind of be out literally in the woods and just
Nice.
meditate and, enjoy some plant medicine and listening to
Absolutely.
meditations. That was actually the summer that I read Beyond Behold the Pale Horse by Bill Cooper.
Oh,
I'm a
hell yeah.
huge reader, so all the Neville Goddards and the all the good original stuff. So I didn't watch a lot of the YouTube things, but just understanding the concepts and things, and then there was like so many creators that were putting things out or saying that. I was like, I didn't know that, but I was doing that practice, but I never read about it. But just like intuitively knowing, oh, hey, maybe I should, pray or focus on candle flame or positivity. But it wasn't any one thing really, but over enough time of getting kicked down just in the career of people that always wanted to make their name in government every time there's a new boss or a new department head. Oh, they want to make their stamp on it and do all these things. And, no matter what I did, it was always questioned. And there, but I kind of feel
Absolutely.
like that's when I learned like most of them failed upward and they didn't know what they were doing. So yeah, that's my clown world moment. I was like, these people are all like, how did you get this job? So that was a big awakening kind of a thing. But when I had enough was enough by 2018, 19, but absolutely by 20 when everything kind of went sideways. And so I would say that was like the big catalyst when I was just no, and walk away from a career that, I was successful at, but looking back now, understanding what I was doing and how I was feeling, being around people who were just asleep and ignorant and, you know, having a breakdown after an election, having a special staff meeting. I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't deeply involved either. I wasn't emotionally involved in the things, but
Mhm.
just it sparked an awareness like, wow, people don't think like I do. Because I realize that I tend to ascribe my own characteristics to other people, like, oh, I'm a good person. They're not gonna they're not lying to me. I'm just very trusting. And so finding that discernment of, be trusting but not be stupid and give it all away to someone, casting pearls
Mhm.
before swine. But yeah, it's the last few years definitely sharpened my iron, and our group iron sharpens iron. And I think of my samurai sword. I have one. It's still at my parents' house. I would swing it around and do some kung fu
Nice.
styles and fight dragons. But I bet that's absolutely what we're doing is we're fighting these dragons, demons, forces that are constantly whispering in our ears, floating around us, taking control of unconscious people and having them say things and do things that are trying to knock us off our balance. And it's
100%.
pretty crazy because they're going nuts these days.
It is. It is. It's almost like, it's one of the biggest things too is it's how at least in my eyes how blatant everything has started to become. I mean, people like us, we see it. We're starting to we see how blatant a lot of this has started to been showcased. I mean, back a while ago in the early days, you really had to look for it. It was still going on, but it was on like such a subtle level. But now it seems like they're just letting everything hang out. It seems like we're getting these almost like this collective nudge almost to wake up. I joke we're being compressed, we're being spread thin, we're being traumatized almost to some kind of degree at this point in time because I was actually talking about this on a show earlier. It seems like we have both sides of the polarity spectrum this planet right now. In some ways, it seems like they're almost in working in cahoots. You know, it's like and not maybe not in like a direct sense, like they're holding hands, but in the sense of, you know, for collective growth and collective alchemy. You know, because like you were
Yeah.
saying, I brought up, and I'll ask you this question, and because this is a philosophical question I've been asking, and you know, a lot of people haven't been able to answer it because it's kind of a deep one. And so I'll ask this to you because I'm curious about your thoughts. So let's say in the 3D realm, not the spiritual realm, everybody. Okay, because I know in the spiritual realm this can happen, and yes, that's a different thing. But in the 3D realm, in the human experience, let's say you were born into nothing but peace and bliss. And that is all you knew. You knew nothing else. Would you even be able to appreciate it or grasp a sense of appreciation for that peace and bliss if it is all you ever knew? You knew nothing else. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, yeah, and I've heard you ask that before, so I'm glad I had a little forethought on that one.
Yeah.
That was very, yeah, it's very deep. But yeah, I've thought about that. I was like, you know what? If that were the case, and I grew up in a 3D world where it's just peace and health and, just beautiful nature and just, and I would sit with that and feel it for a while as I meditate, because it really was a great question, because it's felt really good to put myself there. And would I appreciate? I think yes, I would appreciate it, but I don't think to the depth of appreciation and love. And I feel that when we do experience that, we are going to feel such incredible relief. That I feel would be the difference between growing up with it, because you don't need relief from something because you haven't been. And when you said compressed, that immediately brought to mind diamonds to my head. I love shiny things, but we're, our carbon cell, we're being compressed into crystalline beings, and our DNA is actually absolutely being activated fully with, the light codes and every day, and looking out at the sun. And I haven't worn sunglasses in about 4 or 5 days, even and when if I don't absolutely need them, I'm not. I'm constantly paying attention to receiving, the solar light codes, the energies, focusing on, the beyond, and looking at the clouds and the shapes. And I was like, ooh, is that a craft? Because I love Karen Holt and shit, but I've never seen or met anyone, not of Earth. But it's not to say I don't believe it, but I was just like, ooh, I'm excited for the opportunity, because I do believe in my intentions, and some timeline, like, yeah, it's gonna happen. It already has happened to one of me
Mhm.
somewhere. So but it's nice kind of thinking that it all exists now, and our creative visualization, imagination is the god power fueling our ability to manifest on this earth, manifest health, manifest abundance. And like you said, we got to crack the code with the collective. That's each person taking on the commitment and the intention to say, hey, gotta find peace within before I can start experiencing peace around me in the external. So yeah, it's exciting, because I feel that more and more people are coming online with the awareness and the resources. Like you said, you used to never find videos or as many books and movies and things just about, you know, the esoteric concepts and understanding, just
I would,
so much more than what we were ever given.
I'm telling you, real quick, I wanna just give a shout out to Raquel. What's up? Thanks for being here. And so Don has a very interesting question before we get to what I was going to ask you next. So he says, if you are in that state, can you observe trauma as an example on from an outside source? Because I think you would appreciate it if you say the bad things outside of your life. So that's a very interesting question, Don. So if you were in that state, can you observe trauma from an outside source? I'm going to say I honestly don't know. But my opinion on that would be, if you are in a constant state of bliss, you may have the ability to manifest that thought, or manifest that perspective, or manifest that timeline. As far as directly experiencing it, I'm not absolutely sure, and I'm going to try to rephrase that question, because I mean, yes, we all want. Oh, that was Spinja. My bad, Spinja. Sorry, I didn't mean to address Don. But because when you grow up, or you always have something. For me, the appreciation um isn't as depthful. You know what I mean? And this is kind of tying into what you were saying, as far as the struggles, and the spiritual alchemy that we undergo from these struggles and these obstacles and these traumas that we face in our life. And at least in my eyes, ultimately, that's the way we awaken. We get shaken up. I mean, and that's why, like, we look at the fall of the Garden of Eden, right? And there's two different versions of this. Now, you have the canonical context where God created us, and we were in the Garden of Eden, and He told us not to eat from this specific tree, and then the devil, or Satan, came, got Eve to eat the apple from that tree, and we fell from God's grace. And in that context, it's almost like a bad fall, almost. And then in the secret book of John, the Gnostic creation story, though, the other side of the coin when it comes to this, it wasn't God in the Garden of Eden at all. It was Yaldabaoth the demiurge, and he had trapped the earthly Adam and Eve in a false state of unity consciousness, right? And because they were in a false state of unity consciousness, it was then that the energy of Christ came down to Adam and Eve and told them to eat from that tree to free themselves from what was going on at this point in time, from the false unity consciousness. And so they ended up eating from the tree at that point in time, and they fell from that false unity consciousness into the density and consciousness that we are in now. But in some ways, people look at that as a good fall, because we would have been snapped in that false unity consciousness, and we would have been stuck in that false unity consciousness in this quote unquote Garden of Eden. But I'll digress. What I'm getting to with this is, the way that humans change and the way that they are awakened is sometimes they need to fall. They need to be shaken up. They need to undergo obstacles. They need to undergo trials and tribulations, because if you don't, you stay stuck and you stay stagnant, and that's why I'm even going to bring the Bruce Lee quote in here. Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one.
Yep.
So and that's ultimately the secret third version of the story, David. We'll dive into that one later. I wanted to just do these two, but exactly. So that's where I was coming from on that question. It's like, because it's to get people to think that we need to have these instances, and we need to have these struggles in order to find that deeper light within us. I mean, there's some people who, I'm not gonna lie, they have a natural knack. They might be able to tap into that naturally. A lot of us had to go through some of the deepest, darkest depths that this existence had to offer, to shake up our to shake everything up, and to shake us up to get pushed towards the light. So it's I just wanted to say, like, I wanted to pitch that question at you to get your take on it. And I mean, of course, like, yes, we'd always be happy and peace and bliss. That's ultimately what we look forward to. But I feel like, due to our struggles, we can appreciate that a lot more.
Yeah, because we have the empathy for it. You can see it, and you're like, oh, I've been there, and I feel that. For me, as far as having that empathy, sometimes, especially for spiritual workers, awakening people, they're everyone's like, you see people that are like bragging, oh, I'm an empath. I'm like, everyone has empathic abilities, but that's a nice thing. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this clown world has weaponized and twisted empathy to the gazillionth degree. But yeah, just because it's like, sympathy, and now I'm thinking of that Rolling Stone song, "Sympathy for the Devil." Oh, boo hoo. Oh, look what, I'm gonna beat you up and steal your money, and then, oh, you're gonna yell at me and call me a bad word. Oh, I'm gonna film you saying the bad word, and everyone's gonna like, oh, I'm the victim now, but you're the one that was like, yeah, like what? So, and then,
Mhm.
with the media and everything gets twisted, and but yeah, there's times when I think about like Black Mirror, the symbolism, and it's just like, yes, screens
Oh
and
yes.
tablets, and this
Oh yes.
technology is not new. It is That's how they've done it. I know they've done this before, and I believe we're on like a timeline that's not existed before because we are still currently building it in every moment. And that's why I feel
Absolutely.
it's so critical to just, stay high vibe, whatever it takes, because yeah, it feels unprecedented because there's times with the deja vu or the what is it called when something changes in the past? Yeah, the effect.
It is a
What is
lot
it?
like deja vu.
Yeah,
It is a lot like
yeah,
deja vu. I'm trying to think, or maybe some kind of paradox. Real quick, I want to talk about Black Mirror and that with you in just a sec. We have a
yeah.
comment from Anna Lynn. She says, "Yes, chaos presents itself to find fractal order. Authentic divine fractal order cannot come about with masks and the false order. The pressing allows for the authentic fractal to emerge." Completely agree. I dig that.
Mm.
I dig that. But no, Black Mirror is wild, man. I did you see the episode Joan is Awful? Did you see that one?
It was a long time ago. I only
Okay.
saw the first season like way long ago. Um, there were some that really stuck with me. But I'll have to look into that because I was talking with Nick about, entertainment and movies and TV shows, and like, yes, Black Mirror, when that show came out, and especially the one about with the social score for your social credit score. I'd be the one in the
Yeah.
jail screaming and cursing and having a meltdown. But it's like, yeah, that's where they were pushing us. So when 2020 happened, I
Mhm.
thought of that, and I was like, yeah, I think I need to turn off the tech and the social media for a while because bad enough saying no to all the other stuff. It's like, see ya. My PO
Mhm.
box is at the gulag now. So I don't know. But what was it called? John
Joan is awful. So the reason why I'm not going to spoil it for you,
like,
I'm not.
oh, okay. No.
But I'll give you like kind of a little bit of an outline of it though. To me, this was the most intensely symbolic Black Mirror episode. So season 6, episode 1. Help you
Okay.
find it. But
Okay.
let me just I'm just gonna say there was a quantum computer involved running timeline simulations.
Ooh, I love
And that's all I'm gonna
all right. Okay.
say.
I'm sold.
That's all I'm gonna
All
yeah,
right.
so it's just because of that, because but I mean think about it,
Yeah,
that is something that theoretically could even be happening right now. I mean we
for
do
sure.
have quantum computing, at MIT and all of that. And I mean that's what they do though, like and I mean I'll get your thoughts on this. Do you think what we see as far as this symbolism in a lot of these TV shows and movies, do you think it is a form of predictive programming? Do you feel like they are required on a karmatic level to reveal to us um, what what they're doing or what they're up to, or do you think they're like somewhat trolling us? Because I've gotten like both of these answers. I honestly think it's me. I probably think it's both of them, but I'm just curious
Same.
because we do this. Yeah.
I
Let's
think,
get your
and
thoughts on it.
you know what? It depends on the product, the movie, the show, the episode, who
Mhm.
directed it, who's the actor. Because there's times where I'm like, oh, because it's some of the symbolism is very subtle and not beating it in your face, where every sign adds up to 17. And it's like, that's troll. Come on. It's like
Yeah.
too obvious, especially within the last few years. Now they're just doing it to get people to talk about their garbage online as if
Mhm.
their entertainment is of any value, which it's mostly it's not. But yeah, I think they troll, but I do think that they believe that their karmic load is lifted. If like, hey, I told you, you consented, you didn't say no. So I feel
Mhm.
it's a bit of both, but I do enjoy watching a lot of those. I
Oh yeah,
always
yeah.
loved horror, scary, gory movies. I don't watch so much anymore, the ones like, but just to be cognizant when I watch it, like, okay, this is not entertaining. I want to see because I understand that there's truth in there. And you got to know your
Mhm.
enemy. What is their weakness? What are the rules? What are, just kind of see, like, ooh, why did they use iron instead of silver? Or,
Mhm.
salt, or just different things that kind of has me thinking, because I always question everything when they're like, "Oh, because if something is pushed too much, like a symbol." I mean, sometimes I tend to. I'm not into pentagrams at all. Just because when I
Mhm.
worked at the metaphysical shop, they were everywhere, and I was like, yeah, if that had real power, like, they wouldn't be putting it on everything. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
exactly,
that's just
exactly.
I've just kinda have I have a really deep skeptic streak, so just because it's like, if you
Mhm.
realized everything was a lie, well, there's a lot of half truths out there as well, so it's kind of like, be cautious with what you jump into, and that's why I never, you know, got into mixing potions or doing just kind of spells and rituals. Like I under my ritual, to me,
Mhm.
rituals for meditation, prayer, manifestation, they're personal to each person. And I don't think it's something, that they should be advertising or doing in a big group setting like at a church, because I feel like, that's kind of a ritual. And then like there's energy and there's so many people involved. You don't know these people. You don't like when they do circles at when they do little spiritual group things and they do a circle and want to do something special, and I'm like, hey, I'm good, I'm just gonna sit back because I don't participate in circles of people I don't know. And just because there's a lot of false light beliefs
I
out
would agree.
there about, oh, everything's good, we must, everybody, well, in this particular point of third dimensionality, I'm like, yeah, not everyone's human, not everyone has a soul, not every
Mhm.
bio robots, clones, whatever. I know I was giving Diana some grief about, she said she didn't believe in the reptilians. I was like, oh, sweetie, I hope you never see one because not fun.
I got jumped by them interdimensionally during a mushroom experience, man. That was not fun. I ended up I'll touch on it real quick, but and then we'll
Yeah.
get back to what you were talking about. But yeah, no, back it was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving weekend 2023. Um and it was because I had just really started really getting heavy into my Kundalini yoga at that time, and I was like, I had been doing it for a little, and I was like, no, I want to take this to the next level. So I decided to do like my last really heavy dose of psychedelics for a while. At the time, they came and found me 2 years later, but um, so like I ended up doing 4 grams of mushrooms, and I remember I'm sitting at my table like during the come up, and like something just didn't feel right during the whole thing. And I was like, okay, like maybe I'm getting ready to go into a pretty difficult experience. I'm like, that's okay. I said, let me go get a glass of water and just chill. So I go and I get a glass of water. I'm sitting there, and I kid you not, Karen, as I'm drinking, I lifted the glass of water up to my mouth. It felt like something took the bottom of the glass and slammed it into my face. And then I remember I set the glass down, and there they are. They just manifested these
Hmm.
hyperfractaline reptilian beings. There were 7 of them. And I remember they're all
Wow.
like they're like laughing, they're going like ha 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 ha, and they're like poking me and like trying to mess with me and stuff like this. And I'm like sitting here Like, I'm like, oh God, this is a whole big batch of fuck no. Like, we need to do something about this. And so, like, my first thing I went to try and go do was I tried doing my protection mantra. So I went up, into my shower. I turned on the hot water. I'm getting ready to go clean them off of me, in the symbolism of cleaning myself with water. And I start saying the protection mantra. And I kid you not, Karen, all 7 of them took their hands and grabbed my throat. And got to the point where I couldn't even talk. And like, I remember I was like, all right, scratch this. So I like bust out of the bathroom. I'm like, we got to go with plan B at this point. So then I went into my room and I immersed myself in the experience. And, I've been doing energy work for a long time. So I dove into my subtle body and I saw 7 of them eating off my subtle body. And I was like, oh my God. So I remember I ended up ripping them off of me. And freaking when I ripped them off of me, I saw the streak of my energy that went with them that they were eating. And they were like almost shocked that I did that. And they like went and huddled in the corner of my room. And I remember I like walked towards my door and I turned around. I looked at them. I said, I'm going to deal with y'all later. And I left the room and I shut the door and I sealed them in there. And I was just like, oh my goodness, dude. But no, they exist. They do. I got jumped by them.
Oh,
They definitely exist.
wow.
And they're not fun. They're not fun to deal with. Yeah. And, but real quick, back to what you were saying about the predictive programming and all of that stuff. No, I agree with you. I do think a lot of it is trolling. I do think, and and how I saw like a big way they were trolling us, and I kind of picked this out in the symbolism of what they were saying. So you remember when Biden and Kamala were going on banning gas stoves and gas vehicles? There was that whole thing. Well, look, gas stoves, gas vehicles, gas lighting. So that's kind of what I got from that at that point. I'm like, this is a way they're telling us that they're gaslighting us through symbolism, and yeah, they do this. They troll us that way. The other thing you were saying about the horror movies, and I want to ask you a question about that. We'll ask you a question about this too, because I think a lot of the bastardization of the middle path and the esoteric, it does occur in horror movies. They do. They tend to bastardize these concepts.
They do,
Yes, yeah, no. So there was a trailer for the new "I Know What You Did Last Summer," right? They remade it, but in the preface of the trailer, these 2 people find this deck of tarot cards, and they start playing around with the tarot cards and using the tarot cards, and that's why all of the killings start to happen, because it's based on the tarot cards. And this is just something I've seen almost like a constant theme in a lot of horror movies. I'm not saying don't watch them. I mean, I occasionally like to. I say, yeah, but I've just noticed that it seems that's how they do their bastardization of the middle path. It's when we look at the 2 acceptable extremes in our society, you can either be a nihilistic atheist. That's acceptable. You know what I mean? You can go on that road, or you absolutely have to go, into the dogmatic fundamentalist, organized religion category. These are the 2 acceptable things. Middle path, absolutely not. They don't want you looking there. Have you noticed that yourself in a lot of the horror movies, though, that they consistently like find ways to,
yeah, and it's interesting because then it actually sometimes it actually validates the experiences I've had and the studies I've done, is like, oh well, that's where I've always see like, oh, that's a half truth, or they're just totally, that's propaganda. That's not bad. It's intention, but they want people to believe this bad, this good, and opposition. I had to turn this fan down. I think my allergies. Yeah, this rain, this humidity is just awful, awful. But yeah, that sounds. Yeah, I love watching this stuff. I recently watched something called The 16th Floor, I think it was called. There's an app called Tubi that has a lot of free stuff. There's the 16th Floor, and then there was one called Final Girl. But yeah, but these are like the older movies. Like, I like to watch the ones that are older, before people kind of caught on to all the symbolism. So you knew they weren't necessarily trolling you, because everything was still kind of secret. But
interesting.
watch old episodes of Fantasy Island.
I'm gonna have to, man, because I mean, and there is
Yeah.
they put a lot of this, and the other thing too is it's like I've noticed as well. Real quick, we have a couple of comments before I hop into this. So we got David does say the pentagram does hold some power, but you have to know what you're doing with it, and there are words to speak with it. Symbols are as powerful as the intent behind them. And we had Don saying that we are all living an individual experience of reality. These are just the beings you resonate with at this moment of the time stream. Absolutely agree, man. But getting to that too, I've noticed also like they hide all the good stuff about esotericism though, right? In children's shows or like shows for
Yeah.
you look at Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? And
Mhm.
it's this show about like these monks almost that are like cultivating like their chakras and working with the elemental energies of the earth and stuff like that, like some real shit that we know is real,
Yeah.
like in the
The kids
spiritual
shows are
sense.
fantastic. I love Sailor Moon. I love it. Even every now and
Absolutely.
then. Yeah, even now and then sometimes my husband will walk through the room and he'll be like, Moon Tiara activate. He'll just say yeah, because he'll watch it with, and because I'll tell him like, oh, they're named after real crystals. It's jadeite. It's
Absolutely.
like wow, like everything was so accurate in Sailor Moon that I was just like, how is this a kid's show? And here I am, like watching, but they're amazing and they teach it. And I'm like, is this how they've been teaching like the depths that they're bringing up from the younger ages? And I'm rewatching The Magicians lately. If you've ever seen that one,
I've seen The
when they
Magicians, yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like a super edgy, cool version of Harry Potter, I guess. But because
But
yeah,
it is,
but
it's like
I'm sure those places exist. I'm
oh,
sure they exist.
I wouldn't doubt it. I know, but like what you definitely because I mean I'm not gonna lie. I'm still a Dragon Ball fan. I think Dragon Ball is always gonna have us, but the Taoist overtones in that show, just it's the way they depict the afterlife, the way they
Mhm.
depict like certain things. The main character at the end of the series actually ascends to heaven in broad daylight. He enters that divine state and rides a dragon into the heavens like they would talk about in
Yeah.
like Taoism and stuff. So but I noticed that one thing I noticed is, at least this is just my opinion, they put it in those kids shows because it's easy to discredit as make believe at that
Yeah,
time.
it's
You
a
know what I mean? It's
cartoon. It's just a cartoon. Yeah,
Yes, it is. It's like that. So no,
that's what
I
they'll say.
wanted to just throw that out there. Also, too, you brought up a very good point before we move into the next stuff. Yes, Andrew, I agree. You know my opinion on this. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are quite deep. Love it. The show will always have a special place in my heart for sure, man. But you also brought up what you were talking about with the ritual and religion, and this is something like I kind of want to bring up too because um, it's funny, because it's a very personal thing. Ritual is, and that's why I get a crack out of a lot of the current modern Christians who they demonize ritual. They're like ritual is satanic. And I'm not going to go do the whole spiel because I've done it on the show before, but if you look up the definition of ritual, it says a religious practice that's done in a succession or in repetition. It says religious. It says nothing about satanic, but at the same time, you're right. It's feeding off of that collective energy. It's feeding
Yeah,
off of that. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like you were even
and
saying,
it's getting
like,
their unconscious permission, like, oh yeah, I'm supporting
yeah,
this. I'm part, and especially women are very much social creatures. They want to be accepted. They go along to get along, and that was something I just never could do because whatever it is, I'm very grateful that I had that in me to not be in any cliques or any. I was always like, well, if I don't like it, um, I think back, fashion fads. They had
mhm,
certain shoes or, when overalls were a thing. Like, I'm not wearing that. That looks stupid on me. Like, I'm very short. So I'm not going to wear some like giant bib overalls just because they're popular and the magazine tells you, has all the Hollywood people wearing this or carrying that purse. It's the same concept. It's like the psychology of selling when you learn advertising. It's the bandwagon effect. and that's how, you know, religion kind of gets their people to get super zealoty, like, oh well, we're against them because this is good and this is bad, and people are being judged, you know, by a broad brush rather than individually, whether it's religion or ethnicity or sexual orientation or any of that, where it's just like instantly like, oh well, you must be this or you must be that, and it's yeah, what is that, like a kind of like an egregore of like, oh well, we're all part of this team and that team, and uh, so
I know. It
tiring.
gets it does. You know, it gets and it is. I mean, you know, I mean, I've chatted with this about with Diana before. One of the reasons why people do get so roped into it and so looped into it is the sense of community. That is one of the biggest things that will cause, you know, a lot of people to hop on that bandwagon and get in with that stuff. Is, you know, a lot. I mean, they're almost like what we were in the beginning. You know, like they're having like these questions about life, the nature of this existence. You know, is there something divine there? And they get swooped up, and they didn't really have that sense of community. So from that perspective, I get it. But at some point, like you have to have that inner discernment. You have to have that personal agency to go and look at this and be like, you know, something is off here. There's something
Yeah.
almost like a control structure and a control mechanism of this, which brings me to my next topic I want to talk with you about. And this is something that's kind of been coming into uh you know, the talking sphere a lot lately, is spiritual warfare. You
Hmm.
know, I think you know, this is something that we're getting kind of bombarded with quite a bit. And you know, and we have to maintain this awareness of this spiritual warfare. And but too, it's like it's also finding that balance though, you know, because we don't want to black pill ourselves. You know, we don't want
Yeah.
to black pill ourselves into being, you know, because you see it on X all the time. We're all
Right.
doomed. You know,
Yeah.
or we're
Doomers.
screwed. There's nothing we can do anymore. We're screwed and all
Yeah.
that. And like, you know, of course we know that's a defeatist mentality. You know, and then but I kind of want to pick your brain about this because I've asked other people on the panel about this as well. I mean, in your own words, what do you think is a good way to maintain the balance with this to not only, you know, focus on pushing ourselves to the light, our healing, and you know, manifesting our most joyful, abundant timeline, but also holding in our awareness that, you know, we are undergoing spiritual warfare. We are
Hmm.
dealing with it. You know, some people think that, you know, if we focus on that too much, bad things happen. But I think if we stay in ignorance of that fact, that can be detrimental to us too. What are your thoughts?
Hmm. Hmm. So what? Yeah, the black pilling doomers. Yeah, that's a big thing. That's been on my mind a lot actually because I still have yet to actually you get an account and start doing some videos and things. For whatever reason, I'm waiting for the right time, but I feel like the clarity has been coming through because I'm like, what's my specific niche that I care about and where I feel that there's a need? And what came
Mhm.
through is the doomers and black, like no more black pilling, no more doomers. Stop it. Just stop it. And gives people an outlet to like, y- and you know what? It's so it really exposes a lot of people, just like we're finding like the grifters on the right who are like flip-flopping and saying, "Oh, we
Mhm.
want the," yeah. So like the true stuff's coming through also for the spiritual people who've always been preaching their, the natural laws and the hermetic laws and sharing all the stuff about vibration and frequency and energy. And then when they start getting like their energy, like the edge of their voice
Mhm.
is kind of like, well, blah, 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 and he's doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, we create our own reality. If you know that, go within, stop looking outside of yourself, let it go. And so you can see over enough time and pressure of this ongoing kind of, we call it a spiritual war. Some people are wearing down, or maybe they were being paid to offer a false version of what we call, the Christ light that we want to cultivate within and enter and become
Absolutely.
part of. So, and I also feel that, spiritual warfare, like thinking about that term, I feel that it's always been going on. and it's just not
Oh yeah.
received as much publicity.
Oh yeah.
So to me, the warfare, the battlefield is inside ourselves. That's first and foremost. So I don't particularly care to, watch all the videos and clips and interviews
Mhm.
and memes. Good ones come through like through X. I'll be like, yeah, there's some good ones. There've been some really good ones. But I'm like, I don't watch as obsessively as I did from like 2018 to 2000, I think around like 22, 23.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Because Lucy kept pulling the football, and I just couldn't keep having those, spiritual blue balls anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on what I can control. If something happens, great. If not, that's fine too. I'm just like found that space within me and realized the battle is in me, and I'm battling my own
Dig it.
negativity, the programming, and okay, let's rewire my brain, not even necessarily for positivity, but for productivity. Like, I don't have to be high vibe, but I need to get shit done sometimes. And sometimes it sucks.
Absolutely.
It hurts. And I'm just like, fucking hate this sometimes. But it's okay because breathe, have the awareness, always creating the future and the now. So I'm gonna find a way to feel better now. And that's how I'm always stick to the basics and beat those basics constantly, those foundational things. You can control your reality, control your thoughts, feelings, emotions. And it's simple to say, but it's so difficult in practice with everything out there screaming for our attention and, distractions and whatever's out there. And really, we're here to enjoy ourselves because we are anchoring heaven on earth. We're bringing
Absolutely.
that remembrance back. We can't bring that back if we're stressed out and miserable and distracted by a bunch of people that don't know what's actually going on. So I've actually feel better because now I can see people and just, oh, I'm sorry, in my part, I'll send them love and,
Mhm.
a little prayer for their angels to help them wake up and get through whatever they're going through. But I'm no longer attaching myself to be anybody's kind of savior. I'm not chasing people down trying to help them. And I'm not doing it all for free at my own expense because I feel bad for somebody, feeling, you know, pity, bad, someone that's in a bad situation because you can't steal their struggle. That's their karma. And getting over my own issues of feeling, well, that's not very nice of me. If I have the ability to help somebody, shouldn't I do that? And it's like, so I'd sit and kind of ruminate about that, like, what is being a kind person? But then when you understand the God, the Christ within you, thou shalt have no other God before me, well, guess what? Selfishness is not a sin. And the more I've learned to love myself and to think, feel, and act in ways that make me feel like a goddess, like I can just be love and happiness and joy, which is totally not all the time. But when I tap into that, I'm like, yeah, this is who I am. And this is, you know, I want everyone to feel this level of love. But so many people are programmed in the negativity and lack and fear that they don't even know who they are. They're their job title. And like I said, the hunting licenses went on sale, so these all guys coming through and they're talking and blah blah. And how many of them are bragging like, oh, I've been retired and blah blah. I don't even know what day it is. They
Uh-huh.
brag about being retired, and I'm like, oh, that's great. So what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, no, right?
now you have permission, now all of a sudden you have permission to live your life and you're 70 years old, like, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm glad the
don't
younger,
even get.
yeah,
Yeah, don't even get me started on the whole retire. See that, and that's there's a couple things I want to bring up that you brought up, but I want to touch on that real quick. It is the way the system is set up, and it's almost like there's been a subconscious slave complex pile drive into our collective. There is, because I mean it is, and I mean, look, you look at the people we put on pedestal. I deal with it all the time too. Especially when I do as an electrician. We got people bragging, well, oh, I worked 80 hours this week, or oh, I worked 100 hours this week. And like this is some fucked up, like ridiculous badge of honor that they're working. And I'm like, and we put these people on the pedestal, you know what I mean, in our society. Like, oh, look at him. He worked 80 hours a week. Like he's a freaking real man, or he's a real. And I'm like, yeah. I bet his family's pretty upset that he's never fucking home to spend time with them. I bet you he's so exhausted, he doesn't even have the wherewithal to even spend all of this money that he's making, or to even go to spend time with his family. And it is, you see this, and that's why I mean, we literally work, if you want to talk about, we literally work for 85 to 90% of our lives, and it's ridiculous, because we even, like, you could even, I wouldn't even say, like, yeah, you go to kindergarten and grade school to like learn some things, but once you get into high school, you're pretty much going off the work schedule. You're dealing with all of that kind of stuff. And we're literally working for, 85 to 90% of our lives. And then by the time you actually retire, whether, you retire at 60, 65, 70, at that point, you're too old, you're too closed off to any new experiences. You can't really learn anything new in life, I mean, like, you can't really build upon yourself. And so, like, that's the one thing too, like, you just kind of came up as you were saying that it is, you see, oh, I'm retired, like they're bragging about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
what, you had permission to live your life the whole fucking time. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I'll just tell the guys, I'm like, yeah, I'm retired too. This is just my hobby.
And they're like,
Or,
oh, you must have retired. And
Yeah.
like, if I can help it, we're all going to find a way to retire young. I'll figure something
Yeah.
out for everybody if I can, because we deserve to live our life. But real quick, you brought up a really amazing thing that I really liked, and I completely agree with you. You talk about the spiritual wars within, and that is a very amazing and profound way to put it. It is, what we are doing is we have our external experience as a mirror of our internal, and the struggles that we face within ourselves and the darkness that we face within ourselves, we ultimately see manifest into our perceived external experience. So that is actually a really amazing way. You kind of answered that question great, as far as like, balancing, this awareness of manifesting our highest, most joyful, abundant timeline, and and healing ourselves, as well as maintaining this, is having that focus within, and continuing to heal ourselves of this. So I wanted to say, like, you answered that question very spot on, and you didn't even realize it. Like, that was pretty awesome. So I want to give that to you. Also, you talked about selfishness, and there's actually something. So sometimes we have to be selfish in order to maintain being selfless,
Yeah.
and that's something that kind of throws a lot of the community in, a whirlwind when I say this, because they're always like, service to others, not service to self. And yes, ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want to be of service to others, but there's boundaries. There's boundaries that need to be put in place there, because ultimately, if somebody's taking too much of your energy, you know what I mean? And taking too much of your your mental wherewithal or anything like that, ultimately you have to put your foot down. You have to freaking, and that's one of the biggest things. I can't repeat it enough on this channel, because I don't know why people don't think this isn't spiritual, but setting your boundaries and setting them in a firm way is the most spiritual freaking thing you can do for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so liberating. It's so freeing. And it's, oh yeah, this person I haven't heard from in forever texted about, oh, blah, blah. And I'm like, just not even reply. Like, not responding is my response. And that's okay. And it's okay to put yourself first, because ultimately it is all about you. You are creating the timeline of your reality. So why should you not be the captain of your own ship, Why not? Like,
Absolutely.
are you, or are you afraid of hurting someone's feelings, or someone being mad that you said, no, I'm not going to come mow your lawn for you. It's 100 degrees out. Hire someone, not me.
Exactly. And you brought up, I think a lot of people in our community too, they get mixed up between being kind and nice.
Yeah.
Being kind and being nice are two different things. You can be a kind person and be one that is generally altruistic. But being nice is almost like making yourself into a doormat. It's like kind of like stripping yourself of any kind of energetic boundary that you could potentially have. So I like that you brought that up, because I still do see that in a lot of people as well. Actually, one of the guy that I sat with, in my ceremony on Sunday, that was one of the things the divine relayed to him. He's like, you need to stop. You need to give that love to the people who love you, is basically what it says. Stop spreading it all over to the people who aren't deserving of it. You know what I mean? Stop trying to overextend yourself in this. And the divine told him that, other people are going to go through their own trials and their own tribulations. Just take that love that you have and give it to the people that matter, and I think that's great advice too, because ultimately I think that happens to a lot of us when we first start on our spiritual evolution. We experience that oneness with everybody, and we experience that love, and it's like ultimately we want to go and we want to give it to everybody, and then we ultimately get let down, because we see that not everybody wants to reciprocate the love that you're giving them, or or maybe they aren't capable of it. So like I was really happy you brought that up, because I think there's some people out there who need to hear that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I've been writing for. Yeah, I just started my fifth notebook full of stuff. That's why I'm like, spiritually,
Nice.
I gotta start a channel, start putting in things out there, publish a book, get something out there, because I'm bursting with ideas. But one of the big things is it's the spiritual art of selfishness. It's like it's so taboo, or sometimes people are even afraid when I say, you've got to claim your power. And some women usually will be like, well, power leads to corruption and power is bad. I'm like, well, what about God's power? Is God bad because he has power? Like, just because, words get manipulated and people have different understandings of it, but there's power in knowing your own power, and your power comes from having boundaries so that your spiritual energy is not leaking out, because oh, I don't want to hurt someone, or oh, I want to help them feel better, because ultimately, I was at a point I was like very, very low, very depressed, very negative. And one of the best things that I'd heard and still practice to this day when I feel like extreme loneliness or sadness is give yourself the love that you're seeking outside of yourself. Whether,
Absolutely.
it's a romantic partner, whether it's approval from someone at work, whatever it may be, get to put the mirror in front and just be like, hey man, love yourself, give yourself that love, write yourself a love letter. That's actually
You could be.
one of the things I was, because my thing lately is with closing my office is money manifestation. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
maybe I'll offer a thing where I'll people want to sign up. I'll write you I'll mail you a card, and I'll write you something special in it just for you. It's not an email. It's not a video, because I miss that. I love writing. I love the feeling of a good ink pen on paper. It's just like it is art.
Absolutely.
Writing is an art, and I also did some calligraphy back in the day. So feeling like getting some more art into my personal practice as being some kind of expression that I can share, some kind of, beautiful words of hope and inspiration. And yeah, who doesn't like to get something in the mail that's not another bill or another, magazine of some garbage? No,
I,
but
I know, right?
but yeah, it's a
Well,
but
what you were
that's
saying
fine.
too, even with the women with the power, I just want to say this real quick. I mean, our collective has a lot of what I would call subconscious guilt and shame conditioning too. I mean, you've heard the saying, "Have you no shame?" You know what I mean? Like when it comes to certain things, or the way people are acting. But I think that's where, like, that's why even I would feel like a lot of women are really iffy about like wanting to stand in that power of the divine too,
Yeah.
and is that conditioning, and it's like, because I've heard that too before, people say, well, power equals corruption. It's like not necessarily, like, it comes through the balance of character, is ultimately what it is. If you're doing, if you're living in alignment with your spiritual values and you're doing right by yourself and other human beings, you know, that's that character that can handle that divine power. And of course, you know, I mean, I was even watching a video on the cities not too long ago, and this was actually um brought up in this video too. You know, because that's been one of my things, the path of the Siddha. So, you know, I've been going down that road for like about 5 years now. And in this video I was watching on it, it talks about how you know, people who get them, you know, and they're not ready to handle that kind of divine power, it ultimately ends up into them derailing their lives. Like, it ultimately, it
Yep.
like everything
I've
starts to
seen it.
go
I've
wrong.
seen it happen to people. I've seen it, and it's awful. And because yeah, yeah, that's one thing. Like, take your time. Don't rush the spiritual. Don't push it.
Mhm.
Because there's times where I feel like, how have I been doing this for so long and I still don't have a channel of anything? And so, am I late? Because then the mind is like, oh, you're just being late. I'm like, not ready. I'm okay with that. I trust
Mhm.
that anytime when something's ready for me, it will appear. The nudge will happen. The sign will be there.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is, take a breath and trust divine timing. Don't rush it, because I've seen that happen with people that all of a sudden were like, am Jesus Christ reincarnated and I can do everything. So I don't want to be around you or you, and I deserve all this stuff. And then
Mhm.
yeah, because they did not have a solid foundation to handle it at a level of, because yeah, if you think this stuff is crazy, yeah, because again, polarity. So as deep and dark as you go, that's as high and light as you get. So the polarity is, well, if you're bringing all this in, well, you better be deeply grounded, because yeah, it seems like so many uh, channels or just practices in general, they're always so focused on third eye and crown all the time. That's all they talk about is third eye and crown, and not being able to have the basic foundational things that are necessary in this physical 3D world, like, you know, job, income, home, place to live, and food, like stuff that's kind of important that you can't just
Mhm.
wish away. Or, you know, yes, creative visualization and manifestation, but unless you really feel it, especially positive affirmations, if you're speaking things that you don't believe, you're basically cursing yourself. Because yeah,
Oh,
because
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I used to have a problem saying, um like, I am the love, I am the light, I am the truth. So I started off saying, I am light, I am love. Until I felt over time that I felt a little more conviction, a little more embodying the energy. Then I
Mhm.
changed. I'm like, yeah, I am. And yeah. And don't yeah, because it seems like a lot of people are forcing it because it's so popular now, and it's, you know, the trendy thing to be like enlightened and in the great awakening and this and that. And
It is. It's become
yeah,
trendy. It's unfortunate that it
yeah,
has, and that's why, like, you know, and you know, you brought up a really good point too that I kind of want to talk about with you real quick before we start to wind down a little. I you brought up you know, negating the physical aspect of this existence, you know, and this is something that we kind of we see in the spiritual community a lot, you know, and then we see it with a lot of spiritual people too. You know, they're so focused in just strictly the spiritual of
hmm,
everything that it's almost like their actual physical existence falls to the wayside. You know, like they no longer are, you know, they don't go out and try to support themselves, or they don't, you know, go out and try to, you know, because I was always taught in my upbringing in this is it's you master survival before you master enlightenment. You master
yes,
survival before you go to enlightenment. And that's the funny
yeah,
thing too, because you're going to chop wood and carry water before enlightenment, and you're still going to chop wood and carry
yes,
water after enlightenment. But that's something we've seen a lot of, you know, and it is a lot of people. They oh, I don't want to be a human being anymore. I just want to go
yeah.
back to the spiritual realms. And it's like, dude, you chose to come here and experience this. Like, cut it out. Like,
Which
you
is
know.
funny. they should understand that by wishing you were somewhere else, that's kind of negating the work you're doing, because you're supposed to be like, you're supposed to,
Mm.
be here now. I'm good wherever I am, whenever I am. Like that's like the best vibe, even if it's not high or low or whatever. Just like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. Okay, I'm accepting, because there were times I'd be crying, like, please scream at the sky, like, just beam me up already. Come on. Like, we all get there, but you catch yourself and saying, yeah, yeah, Don, you are great, man. You're great.
Don's the man, and David is also the man. Be present for
Yep.
sure. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And it is, man. And that's the biggest thing, because like YouTube, we all chose to be here right now.
Yeah.
Like we weren't forced to be here. But again, Don, I'm okay with being human, but can I please go chop wood and carry water? And honestly, man, that would be the life. If I just had to wake up every day and till my land and chop wood and carry water, I would be completely fine with that. And I know a lot of people would too. But nonetheless, with the little bit of time I have left with you, I want to chat about Bruce Lee. I want to chat about Bruce Lee because you're a Bruce Lee fan too. And I want to say that the man was profoundly ahead of his time in so many ways. And I used to, it was funny because Sadhguru had an explanation for why Bruce Lee died. I have my own explanations for
I
why Bruce Lee
probably
died.
agree with yours.
Yeah, I have my own reasons for why
Yeah.
Bruce Lee
Same.
died, but
Yeah.
what Sadhguru said about him was actually very interesting. So Sadhguru said the reason why Bruce Lee was so powerful and so strong, and he also claimed why this is the reason why his life was cut short, which I kind of disagree with him on this, but I do believe it could have been why he was so powerful and so strong, is he was projecting universal ki. He was projecting universal chi, or some kind of chi, when
Yes.
he was outwardly projecting his own energy in an energetic
Yes.
format, to the point where that's what made him so powerful. It complemented what he was doing. So but ultimately, the man was ahead of his time, and his philosophy is sound, man. And I think these are words we all need to revisit and live by today. What do you think about that?
Oh, I do. I do. Um, yeah. Just amazing. A poet, really, philosopher,
Absolutely.
husband, father, just because he had that balance. He was like, doing his job, being an entertainment, but still being a humble, decent person. Someone who's so didn't let fame get to his head. And yeah, I'm thinking you probably are aware, like with the mafia and the
Mhm.
triads and all of that, and entertainment and Hollywood, so yeah, I
Absolutely.
have my, and also what happened to his son Brandon during filming of The Crow. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So they absolutely, there were forces trying to shut him up and trying to stop him from getting the message, his teachings out,
Mm.
which were, all about love, kindness, but also strength and purity and integrity. And those are things that are completely lacking in any of our education or entertainment system. So yeah,
I would
because now
100%
everything's
agree.
just, yeah, yeah,
Well, it is, because what he stood for is we were looking at. I mean, so you see the average. He is the best thing I say. He's the big reason why. Like, I always joke that, like, let's say me, you, or somebody like Don, or somebody like David, or somebody like Diana, or Sam, Kirsten, all of our Raquel, all of our group. Let's say like one of us got a main seat on the world stage. It would be absolute end game. It would be absolute end game at that point for the
yeah,
parasite class. It would, because at that point you have an individual who's living in alignment with spiritual values, showcasing that integrity, showcasing that you can, have this balance. You can be humble, and you can be a normal human being while sitting in a main seat of the world stage. He was a lot like an everyday man. You know, he
Hmm.
was a lot like an everyday man when you come down to the bottom of it. So that is the big reason why I think he ended up, because he showcased the complete opposite of what they were trying to portray. They were trying to
Right.
put, I mean, and they've succeeded at this point, succeeded putting egotism, narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy on a pedestal. I mean, you look at every freaking, TV show right now. Look at the
Yeah.
main character. Look at the main character. They either fit that description. They're egotistical. They're narcissistic. They're either psychopathic or sociopathic, and it's made to seem like that's the cool thing to be. They make it
Yeah.
seem like it's the cool, edgy way to be this way. You know, you got to be
Yeah.
like this. But Bruce Lee was in a space of notoriety. He was the complete opposite. You
Hmm.
know, and so many people looked up to him, and so many people loved his message and enjoyed his message. And ultimately, I do think if he has survived and he had continued living up until the point where he died a natural death, I do
Hmm.
think the world would be a little bit different. I mean, look at how many people respected him and all of that. So, and that's why I do think that was a motive, one of the motives ultimately into
I
get,
do.
and his son also had that too, from what I remember as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Yes. And unfortunately, Bruce's daughter Shannon still does a lot of things out in public, honoring her father and his legacy and his books. So it's still available, but yeah, it's also like any down to earth person who has the strength and conviction. I also think Malcolm X. I mean, man,
Mhm.
you want to talk about it, right? Yeah, you know why they never talk about him when in conspiracies or anything, because yeah, what he talked about was just, yeah, because
Oh,
it's
100%.
it's yeah. So there's a lot in there, and I absolutely, that's when you mentioned about having one or more of us that have found each other in the past year or so, just having a seat, we're all like just doing this and
Mhm.
participating in the chat and doing our different streams and things. We are, just making ripples now, but those ripples become waves and become a tsunami at some point. I hold that in my vision, that it's already done. Time exists now. And I focus on that. Every little thing we do and say with intention, with love, with compassion, it's happening. And then we're the ones generating it. And I do believe that we are the plan, not whatever, playbook thing, but the awakening of our souls and of the truth of the Christ within. And that when we reach that critical mass, whatever it is, to push us over that tipping point, it's absolutely inevitable in my book. And that's how I view it. So that'll be the one that I experience. And wow, it's making me tear up feeling it, because I just
It's
feel it
true.
so much in my heart space,
Yeah, yeah.
because, you know, and that's where it is. That's our most powerful weapon, is our heart. It's our love. That is all there is and should be, and that's the truth. And material things fall away. Nothing is permanent but the love that we are and the souls that we carry. And I feel that our DNA is really upgrading and activating to embody more of our soul power. And I feel it's gonna be very interesting in the next year or so.
Oh,
And it's great
absolutely.
that, yeah.
Well, the one thing I was going to say too, because that was the message, one of the big messages I got from the divine in my ceremonial experience last Sunday. Um, and yeah, I've made posts on X about it, and that's ultimately the biggest message I got out of that whole experience is love is everything, but love's more than just an emotion. It's
Mhm,
more than a feeling. It's a power. It's a force. It
mhm.
alters reality. It bends time. And the best way I
Yes.
can describe it too, you ever have something that was cooked with love and then had the same dish that wasn't cooked with love? It is
Mhm.
two different ball games, man. Like two different
Yeah.
ball games. The dish that
Yep.
was cooked with love phenomenal, amazing. It could be the simplest dish in the world, but since it was made with that love, it's phenomenal. And then you go to the dish that wasn't made with love. It could have been like the commercialized version or a version you're getting at a restaurant or something like that. And yes, David, I agree. Love is the most powerful form of magic. And Don, I agree too. Be like water. But, and then also too, it's like, have you ever noticed when you're with loved ones, like let's say you're catching up with some loved ones you haven't seen in a while, and you guys are having a conversation, and you'll feel like you guys have been chatting for like hours, and you'll turn around and look, it's only been like 45 minutes have gone by, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like we sit here, time alters matter, or I mean love alters matter, and it bends reality. We can see this just based on these little two experiences that I talked about. And the biggest message that I got was the ultimate kill shot to this illusionary system that we're currently in is if we learn how to, and that's true ascension from what the divine told me, is to channel the divine love fully into your current avatar that we're currently here inhabiting in this earthly plane, and to master it and to impart it into every aspect and every facet of this existence. And if we were to do that, the matrix would crumble. It would absolutely crumble, because we know the matrix, the societal Maya, excuse me, is devoid of that love. It's devoid of that spirit. And even just bringing that into the equation would dissolve it almost in such a fast way. And the divine communicated with me, even if one person did it, even if just one person learned how to do it, that would be it. So I have my work cut out for me. I know we all do, but we're going to figure it out.
Well, we are. We already have. We're just in the linear space right now. So I just I focus on the feeling at the end, and it's great, and it helps kind of get through the daily kind of gritty stuff that happens. And it's like, okay, everything's a learning, awakening experience. I always go to the may all you do be done in love, because that's
Absolutely
what transformed my life and my journey, is always going back to love and realizing that, we not only give and receive it, that we are love. Love is a frequency, and heaven is a frequency of love. So we can, by broadcasting it, embodying it, and acting and serving with love, that's landing heaven here on earth. And the more we do that, whether washing dishes or like, selling people their hunting licenses, like I can be, I can send them love and be like, hey, have a good time in nature, say hi to the trees for me, so and that's
Absolutely.
like a thing, that you don't have to have a spiritual job to be spiritual. It could be anything, like you said, cooking the food, imbuing it with love. That's, you're raking your food as you stir, or you're making the cookies and stirring the batter. And you know how many cookies are you going to bake in the oven? I don't know. Ask the Keebler.
And dude, I'm telling you, it is. I mean, it is. And that's the biggest thing I can tell people, because like, that's the biggest difference you can notice when it comes to love. Like, and I know my mom's in the chat, so she's going to love what I'm about to say. But when I would eat the Italian food that her and my Grammy made, like, and I knew it was made with love. Dude, it was unstoppable. Like, it was so delicious, so good. And then I would go have that other food other places where it wasn't made with love, and it would just it didn't even hit the same, man. It didn't even hit the same, So like, and a lot of people do that. A lot of people grew up, when it'd be like, hey mom, what's in this? Oh, it was made with love. And then you taste it, and it's like amazing. And then you go have the same thing somewhere else, and it's just bland. It's like, man, what is this? Like, like, it's got to be the love. It's got to be what's in there. So I completely agree with you on that. Real quick, Karen, before we say goodbye tonight, I want to talk about what you do with Grateful Heart. I want to talk about what is Grateful Heart. I do have your website up here too. I'm going to bring it up real quick.
Okay.
And
I do need to update.
No worries.
Yeah, but I do Reiki meditation treatments. So currently, I go to my clients' homes now that I don't lease a physical space anymore. It's getting too expensive and stressful. But basically, I just want, whether it's guidance, teaching people about natural law, how to just feel better about life, how to learn to appreciate themselves and find some hope and faith in themselves, higher power, whatever it is. So it's been a challenge to kind of put in what it all is because it depends on the person. Which was funny is when I first a while back saw Diana's website for Transcending Ascension, as I went through it,
Mm.
everything on it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's spot on, 100%. So, but yeah, I call it higher learning for elevated living because yeah, I got to have some of my
Very cool.
personality for plant medicine and a little bit so but I am planning to do some kind of outdoor in nature meditations um
Okay.
here and there, but it's in a process. It's all still percolating in my head, so to speak, but a lot of writings, meditations, and recordings for people to listen to for helping with the rewiring of the mind. Like everything is the mind, and the hardest part I think that people have is stop taking everything that you think so seriously and understanding that they're tapped into a frequency of just negativity, and they're just constantly being bombarded with negativity everywhere. Even like
It is.
the ones you can't even hear consciously, the signals and the frequencies. So just trying to teach people not even positive thinking, how to think for themselves, how to just focus on themselves. And the more I've taught and talked to people, that's where I was like, yeah, the art of spiritual selfishness. Like, be selfish. Learn to love yourself so much that it's like, yeah, I love myself so
Absolutely.
much. I'm not going to allow myself to be disrespected by anyone or any job. So it's been an amazing feeling the last several years because now where I'm at, it's like I just walk away. I don't feel guilt, shame. I'm just like, no, not just no, because
Yeah,
no one stays the same. Relationships, people, free, yeah. So to have the awareness, oh well, that was great for a while, but now it doesn't feel that way. So I need to be okay with letting go of it or just giving it a timeout and just really always forward, never back. And that's been my thing. It's not that I don't talk about my awakening. It's just like it was in the past and it was very painful and it was
I
expensive and
totally
it was
get it.
just but it's like, like I have the value out of it, but understanding that our thoughts become things. And that's when people get in trauma loops because all they do is constantly think about the person that did them wrong. So they're creating another situation for someone to do them wrong. So I try to be a little more careful about, but yeah, but I guess the main thing is you can get through anything. You can overcome it. You can, learn from the past, heal it, and move on and realize you're not the same person you were. You can choose at any moment to be anything. And why not be the best version of yourself? Why not embody Christ consciousness, higher being that you are? Why not land that and start performing miracles and feeling great and having health and joy and start magnetizing miracles into your life? Because that's where I feel the heart, the gratitude. So that's when I came up with it. Like, why not like grateful heart? Because it's my heart
Dude.
is like so full of love that I just get really emotional at times when I connect with people because I care so much because I know what that pain feels like, and I know you don't have to hold it. So, and I feel that,
I,
we're getting there.
I
We're
completely
absolutely getting
agree.
there. So just, I'm just like your happy cheerleader kind of person to like lead you to serene waters to find a special place where you can, rest in the garden in your heart and visualize and, help people forgive themselves because sometimes they just need somebody to tell them what they know they need to do, but sometimes they won't do it until someone tells them to. And if I could just be that person, that's fine. Because sometimes I need to hear it too, but then I'll go into meditation and have, yeah, someone will tell me. I love Kuan Yin as far as
Definitely.
ascended masters, and especially because she's got the dragon and all the awesome flowers and jewels. So but yeah, all of the beautiful energy, that's what I try to offer through Grateful Heart. And yeah, like I said, I'm probably gonna start offering doing handwritten letters that I'll mail to people. Something's, whether
Very
it's
cool.
a mantra or a poem, because I write a lot. I get style, don't get me on karaoke, but yeah, I love
Like
transmuting songs, like songs with negativity but great beat and whatever. I switch words so I can still enjoy my favorite jams, like whatever. So
that's the
that's what
best.
Grateful Heart's all about. It's just good vibes, good people. It's evolving, and I
That's
know it's
amazing.
gonna be great.
I know it's going to be great too. I know it's going to be great, and I like the transmuting of the songs, and I'm a Def Leppard champ when it comes to karaoke. I'm not going to lie. That's been I guess a few of the songs I sung by them, but nonetheless, Karen, I want to absolutely thank you for taking time out of your busy life to sit down and chat with me. And this has been a real honor and a real pleasure. It's really cool to have you on. And to get to know you not just a little bit better, but to feel your fire, to feel
Yeah.
like I said, that's one of the biggest reasons why I respect you and I really like you is you are no bullshit, and
Oh, thank you.
you don't beat around the
Spiritual
bush. And
arson. I'll be the arsonist.
spiritual arson.
I kind of
we
it's
can't
kind of
we
funny.
can be we can't be spiritual arsonists, but hey, man,
Yeah,
that's the spiritual fire, and I know everybody
yeah.
in the audience would agree. But real quick, Karen, I have your X profile, and I have the Grateful Heart website at the bottom of both the YouTube and the Rumble descriptions for this video tonight. But if there's anywhere else anybody can find you, and if you have anything else that you're working on, let everybody know now.
But not currently. Pretty much just the X, and yeah, Facebook doesn't get too much, but I am on there as well. But ha- yeah, I'm still just kind of with the technology thing, but I'm
Yeah.
getting there. I'm giving myself the patience, but I'm totally enjoying, being hopping on everyone else's panels and talking to you, because it does. You guys give me the nudge, like, okay, set up the computer. Let's make sure everything's updated, whatever. But yeah, but everybody has their thing, and be
Mhm.
okay with that. If there's things that, if you're not eating the cleanest diet, or not exercising as much, give yourself some grace. We're going through a lot right now. We're being hit and
Ooh.
bombarded with so many things and distractions and energy that, just listen to your body and give yourself rest, and don't push. Just don't push it. Divine timing. Trust that God power energy will give you the nudge as appropriate. And if there's any habits you're trying to quit, just it will fall away naturally. I really do believe that. I've experienced that, and I didn't even realize it, that at a certain level, at a certain point in your energy, you will just stop craving whatever it is, whether it's junk food or smoking or something. That just take it easy.
I'm with you.
It's all
I'm with
okay.
you.
It's all
Great.
okay. There's nothing to freak out about.
Grace is definitely something we need to extend to ourselves. And I 100% agree with everything you said. Karen, if you could hang out for just a couple minutes after the show ends, I wanted to chat with you real quick. But other than that, everybody, thanks for joining us for another BG-Cast Wednesday Live podcast. Again, I will be on vacation next week, much deserved vacation where I'm going to be right on the beach. It's going to look just like a Corona commercial, but I'm not going to have a drink. But I will be airing the FKN panel conversations with AI part 2, so you guys will have something to check out. You're very welcome, Mom. Appreciate it. And I'll have something for you guys to check out. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. And other than that, I want to say you all have a very good night. You know how we say it here. We have 4 things we say now. Stay safe, stay free, stay sovereign, and stay away from the Japanese nasty robots. You know what we're talking about. Yeah. So stay away from those. But other than that, have a good night, everybody. Take care, and thanks for joining us. See you.
Collectively together, you were born to rotate with the crowd. You were born to sync with the sacred spiral. The Hercules stream is proof. The cosmos honors the divergent. legend. BG-Cast brings us that Hercules energy. It's here to save the day, you won't stay lost in the dark. Here is your shot with BG Camp beside you. Can we rise alone?